Hi, welcome to episode 288 of your favorite daily podcast, a couple of things, a podcast about things. Today, I'm going to talk about tracking my digital media use for 48 hours, which is something I had to do for a school project, and some of the interesting things I discovered from that process. Let's get into it. So, for one of my classes, I had to do a self surveillance thing where I had to, well, not just me, the whole class, but I had to, track myself for 48 hours, what I did, the motivations behind doing what I did, and so on and so forth. It was a very interesting exercise. And initially, I had planned to do it manually, but then I realized that there were so many things I forgot to just write down about my activities. So I downloaded this app that basically tracks every single thing you do on your phone. And then I had it on my phone for about 3 days, and then I exported all my data. And it had data going back like 3 weeks before the day I downloaded it. I was very shocked by that. But something that I found very interesting was how often I switched between apps. Like in there were for 2 days, because I only focused on 2 days out of the all the data that I got. And in those 2 days, I switched between apps on my phone over 2,000 times. There were almost 3,000 rows of data of things that I did on my phone, which was very, very shocking to me. Like, I was actually quite shocked by that. And then I also thought about how sometimes I don't open some apps consciously. Like, when I open those apps, it's not like with intent, in the sense that, and not in the sense that, oh, I just open Instagram to browse randomly, but like, so if I'm in my email, like I'm in the Gmail app and I open an email, it opens and there's a link in it that I want to read, it opens in Chrome. But I don't register that as me opening Chrome. In my mind, I have just opened my email app. I've just opened the Gmail app, and Chrome opening is not really relevant in my consciousness. But obviously, I have opened Chrome because I clicked on the link. So it was just very interesting for me to see how that happened a lot in those 2 days. And probably if I looked at the other days, I would have seen something similar. So yeah, that was quite interesting. And another thing that I found rather strange was the Google takeout process. So I wanted to combine my insights from multiple sources so that I could have a very clear picture of what I had done in those 2 days and try and piece together like my motivations and all of those things. Because I did write some of it down, but not all of it, because again, I couldn't remember to do it consciously all the time. So I requested my Google history, the Google, a lot of apps actually have this function feature, which is a takeout request, where you can request for all of your data. And wow. So initially, I thought I would be able to choose the specific days that I wanted, but you cannot do that. If you want to request your Google data, you have to request for all of your data ever. And I didn't do this for every single Google app. There are over like 70 or 80 in the list. I only did for like 60 something, and it was almost 400 gig of data, which is an insane amount of data. And obviously, I could not like open every single thing and look through it. That would have been such a waste of time. So I decided to stick to only requesting my Chrome history, and that was also a lot of data. That was like almost 400,000 rows, if not more, of data going back to like maybe 2010 or something. It was insane. I was so shocked. I was like, wow. What? And then I also noticed in my Google Chrome history that um there were a lot of things that were happening when my laptop was not open, because I would see things at like 4 a.m., 3 a.m. when I was asleep as pages loading on my Chrome. So I found that to be very random and odd. I didn't really dig into why and what it could mean, because I had other things to do, being my homework and stuff. So that was also interesting. So another source that I looked at for this was my digital wellbeing app, which was actually the place where I first thought I would be able to export my data. I assume that in digital wellbeing, I'll be able to actually export the data that it's using to aggregate to show me those visualizations of the apps I've used the most, the duration that I've used those apps for, how many times I opened the apps, the number of notifications I got from those apps. But unfortunately, that's not how that works. So that was not useful to me. Although I found something interesting there, which is that I actually don't use my phone as much as I thought I did. So when we had this homework, I had planned that on the days that I was going to log, I wasn't going to use my phone so much or whatever. But I totally forgot about that, and I just used my phone and everything as normal. And it turns out that I actually don't use my phone as much as I did, and I actually went through other days of my digital well-being data, and generally, I'm not on my phone a lot, which made me feel proud of myself, to be honest, because it's something that I was conscious about somewhat. So yeah, it was really nice to see that I'm not like always on my phone or whatever. Um, but I was shocked by how much time I spent on my laptop, which should not have been surprising, honestly, especially in the past couple of weeks where I've been in school and like from morning to evening, I'm on my laptop in class taking notes, accessing resources, and then when I come home, I'm probably doing data camp or reading or recording this podcast. So all of that time accumulates. And something else that shocked me was how much I opened WhatsApp. A lot of notifications from WhatsApp. It was insane. I get so many notifications from WhatsApp, and then I end up, opening the app like multiple times. Yeah, my average screen time is like 3 to 4, 5 hours a day, which honestly doesn't seem so much to me, given that I'm awake like maybe it's 16 to 18 hours of the day, and I'm not most of the time I'm just not just on my phone, and I feel that most of the things that I do on my phone are actually quite productive to an extent. So I'm reading emails, reading newsletters, learning in that sense, and then I'm also um playing word games and Sudoku and things like that. So even though they can be time wasters, they're like in my mind they're productive time wasters. And then I catch up with family and friends, and I've been off socials for a while now, for a couple of maybe like 2 3 weeks now. So definitely that has reduced my screen time. Although in the first week I found myself opening Instagram a lot for no reason, even though I was logged out of the app. So I'll open it and I was like, oh, I'm logged out, and then I'll close the app back. But generally, it was a very great exercise, and it was great to see, like, look at myself digitally, look at my digital footprint, so to say, and see the kinds of things I was doing, how I was spending my time online, and well, not online in general, but more on my phone and my laptop. And to be honest, I didn't feel too ashamed of it. One of the days that I tracked was a Sunday. I was slightly embarrassed when I was looking through the data, because during the sermon I saw that I was on my phone a lot, and I was so embarrassed when I was looking at the data. Um but the problem is I take notes in church on my phone, and then I get distracted by notifications. So maybe I need to put my phone on focus mode where I don't get notifications and things, or I switch back to taking notes in my Remarkable, which is what I used to do before, or take notes on, like, I get a small journal for church and take notes in it, and also take my physical Bible to church as well. The only problem is that I don't like carrying a bag, so I don't know how that's going to work. But yeah, generally I feel okay with my level of digital use. Maybe I need to try to pay more attention in like class or in church and not be on my phone and things like that. Then also something else that I found interesting was, and it relates more to like what we're learning in school about how data comes to be. Um, Really, and this is not just data, and is a thought I've had about like the design process and how everybody just rushes to Figma or some tool or whatever. I feel like these tools limit us, and this exercise really showed me that, but in a different perspective. So I realized that when I was logging data manually and like logging my activities manually, I wasn't recording as much detail, and I didn't have as much specifics as when I just exported my data from the log tracker. And it just shows how like a lot of things are constrained or shaped by the kinds of tools that we use in doing them. And that was another interesting insight for me that wasn't necessarily related to the data thing alone, but more broadly, just how our tools can shape and limit the kinds of things that we do or choose to do or can do. Yeah. And then also how data is partial. Like, I know this from research, from being a researcher and my background and everything, but just again, this exercise just reinforced it, because when I was even cleaning the log data, because I didn't just submit it like that with like all the 5 seconds in every app, switching between app things. I tried to, collate everything into like, okay, at this time I was using Instagram from this hour to this hour, and it was for like 15 minutes before I finally closed and totally stopped using the app. So when I was going through it, I was like, wow, this is interesting, because now I have, this is not the data in its raw form of how I actually exported it. I picked things, I removed things, deciding like, should I keep the ones where I use the app for a second because I accidentally opened it? So two apps that that are next to each other, and I accidentally select one instead of the other. Should I include that in my total thing? I ended up not doing that. But like, yeah, just goes to show that data can be partial. Like self-reporting especially can be a very, very partial process. So you need to be very careful about when you're how you're using those kinds of data. But that's a different topic. Anyway, on to number facts. There are 77 days left in the year, and 77 is the sum of the first 8 prime numbers. It is also the atomic number of iridium. And on Today in History, a lot of amazing firsts and beautiful things happened, developments and stuff. So today in 1956, Fortran, the first modern computer language, is shared with the coding community for the first time. Also today in 1878, the Edison Electric Light Company began operations. On this day in 1783, the Montgolfier brothers, their hot air balloon marks the first human ascent by Jean-François Pilatre de Rosière. Yeah, that was in 1783. And finally, today in 1582, you heard that right, Pope Gregory the 13th implements the Gregorian calendar. And this is how I found out today that it's called the Gregorian calendar, presumably because of this guy was called Pope Gregory, and he's the one who implemented it. And that's it for today's episode. Thank you for listening. Bye. I still need questions. I still need suggestions of who to talk to. I still need people who want to come on to talk about something to fill the form. So please do that. Thank you very much. And yeah, do like, share, subscribe if you found it interesting, insightful, and all the nice things. Bye.